And we are back once again only on it is Last Call. Last Call without the alcohol on the Last Call YouTube channel. And once again, we always love having him on because he pulls no punches, takes no dives, and well, there are some bears and liberals and just IWC people who have nightmares about him because he has no problem, as they say, slapping a bitch if you get out of line. I give the man with the largest natural pythons in the world. Eat your heart out, Hulk Hogan. I give you War Dog Kevin Apollo. So, Kev, let's get this show on the road and talk about the first the interview people are talking about, which is driving people bananas, which is, and here we go. Nick Khan, ladies and gentlemen, said recently in an interview that WWE does not sign talent to just bench them. That there is a plan, but everybody they sign there, and of course AW people are going, wait a minute here. Dakota Kai, Omos, remember the main. What is going on here? I mean, because there is truth. WWE has way too much talent. You and me have barked about that for now 2 years, but what is the actual plan, and how much of it is IWC right, and how much of it is Nick Khan's right? There is a plan. Just unfortunately, things are never, concrete and absolute.
Well, so that let's start with that, right? The big difference between the two cons is the WWE does have a plan. When they sign you, when they decide they choose you, that they want you, once they figure what we're going to do with your name, there's a plan. You're going to do this amount of time at NXT. This is going to be the character. This is going to be the story we want to develop with you. If we're pulling you up to the main roster, hey, this is where we're looking to go. Sometimes, no plan survives contact with the enemy, and then you've got to reboot. Sometimes it's you got to be off TV to get the stink off you. How can I miss you if you don't go away? Or, oh, that was really bad. We need you to be gone for as long as possible to make you forget. The versus, hey, hot new indie team, my EVPs, apparently they're your friends, so we're going to sign you. You got released from the WWE, so I'm going to sign you. You got released from TNA, so I'm going to sign you. We're rating talent from AAA and CMLL and New Japan, so now we're going to sign you. What we've seen is it's a tale of two very different cities. You get signed to AEW, and there is no plan. You're gonna get a contract. If you're lucky enough, it's not one of the lame pay by appearance deals. It's an actual contract. But then you may not be on TV for 6 or 7 months, and then you're gonna debut. And assuming that you're not in a situation where it is internet booking community convenient to have you on TV on a regular basis, you may not be seen again for another 6 weeks. And then after that 6 weeks, you may not be seen again for another 8 weeks. And after that, you might not be seen again for another 5 months. And then maybe if you're lucky, you'll go to ROH for a little bit. And then you'll randomly wind up back on the main roster so that you can job on pay-per-view. And then no one's going to see you again, right? The case in point, look at Rusev. Rusev showed up. You have this killer, right? This killer who fought John Cena in a tank. Was still massacring people on the main roster, even though it wasn't going the way he really wanted it to. Was in a feud with a guy who was about to become world heavyweight champion, in the form of Lashley. But was a credible threat to Lashley still. And you debut him as a video game nerd, and then he disappears again. And then what? How many times did you see Rusev over the course of those 5 years? 4 times? Maybe 6 times, and he had a match, maybe two. That's not signing people with purpose. That's signing people to sign people. So fine, we can talk about Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai got signed and was used. She was used brilliantly in NXT for a very long time. When she was with oh god, when she was with
Tegan Knox,
Raquel.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, when she was with Tegan, when she was with Raquel, Even when she was with Damage Control as the English speaking weeb, there's been something that's just, hey, listen, Dakota's injury prone. Shit happens. You brought it back on the TV. There wasn't much for her, but at the same time, hey, I would imagine that the other two members of Damage Control had to be pretty close to being healed. So why force Dakota to be on TV when you obviously haven't broken up Damage Control, and bringing them back will give you something to do for everybody, right? So, or let's say who else? Omos. Here's the thing with Omos. Omos is someone who shouldn't be on TV on a regular basis. Omos needs to be treated special. The guy is bigger than the Big Show, and he's more athletically gifted, and he's still really very new. As great as the Big Show was, the reason the Big Show didn't become the next Andre is because he wasn't treated like Andre. He was on every week, and when you're on every week, at some point in time, you're going to have to lose, right? And Big Show lost a lot. There would be flashes of brilliance with his booking, but not enough that put him in that upper echelon. Omos, because he's so new, shouldn't be. He should be, if the house show circuit was what it was, Omos would probably be at every house show, but not on TV because he has to learn on the road. The and you can't overexpose characters like that. But what do we? So here's the reality. What are we doing with Omos? Omos has been going to Mexico. Omos has been going to Japan while he hasn't been on TV. So Omos is getting his reps in, and getting in front of different crowds until they're ready for him. That's not being benched. Not being used on TV is not the same as being benched. You're still getting signed, and you're being signed with a purpose. But if they don't have anything for you, they don't have anything for you. When they signed you, sure as hell they did. I mean, look, Shotzi, right? They signed Shotzi, and Shotzi got all kinds of cool shit up to and including the tank. Then she got pulled to the main roster. Vince took it away. Hunter came, gave it right back. But Shotzi's also had some, real life personal stuff that she needed to be off of TV for. And then there just wasn't quite room for her yet. That isn't being benched. That's being allowed to take care of personal affairs, and needing an opportunity to bring you back in. Alexa Bliss, same thing. You know, the yes, we kind of ran out of stuff for her to do. The Wyatt stuff kind of went flat. Then we had problems with Bray. Then she had her baby, and now they just didn't quite know where she fit. Again, that's not being benched. That's waiting for creative to figure out what to do with you. The you know like let's Camille. Look at Camille. How long was Camille on that roster before she debuted? Right? It was almost a year. It was almost a year. And it took the internet bullying Tony for him to put her on TV. And then what did he do? He jammed her at Mercedes, blew what should have been the easiest storyline to produce because the template was laid out for you. It was there. It was obvious for everybody. You knew she was going to have this movie. You did this movie coming up, botched it anyway, and we're never going to see her on TV ever again, probably. Because she voiced her frustration with Tony's inability to handle the creative process. Let's see who else. Who else? We got so many freaking people. Look at Okada. Look at Okada. You backed up a Brinks truck and dropped off more money than God. What was the plan for Okada? Sure, he's on TV every week, but how many matches has Okada had on AEW TV since he got signed? What is a viable storyline that you've had for Okada since he got signed? What has he done of any significance since he's been signed? Oh, he says bitch every once in a blue moon. That's great. That was the signing someone on purpose. That was signing someone so that they couldn't go someplace else. And you effectively benched them. You just put them on TV because your EVPs realized that they needed to make sure they kept their friend on TV. But how many Private Party? He uses Private Party sparingly every once in a blue moon, but you signed Private Party for what? These guys were so new on the indies that they had a lot of learning to do, and you didn't do anything for almost 2 years, and then you put them with the Hardys, but then they weren't with the Hardys anymore, and then maybe they were with Matt, but then they weren't with Matt anymore, and then you didn't see them, and then Matt left, and then you put them back together, and then they were back on TV because you needed to drop a belt on them to say that you are going to do something with them. And then you take the belt off of them, and then you have them get beat up by the Neo Moxleys, but no one gets any heat back. And what's Private Party doing now? You know, what you know they simped for a Monet at one point in time, but what are they doing of any significance? There was no plan when you signed these kids, so now you just stole 5 years of their fucking career. You know, could you imagine where Private Party would be now if they got that indie time? You know, if they got the bigger matches, if they got to maybe go to Japan for a quick second, for a second, where would they be? Where would they be? Because if they eventually leave and they go someplace else, let's say it's to the WWE, right? They're gonna have to be deprogrammed. They're gonna have to be re-educated, and instead of jumping into the fire, now they've got to go back down to now they got to put the training wheels back on and relearn. When had they been out in the wild and learning and picking up random experience here and there, they probably would have been in a better place with much more equity. And for me, that's really the big thing, right? Whenever we talk about WWE versus AEW, or anybody going anywhere other than AEW, the WWE's plan is when we're signing you, or when they're signing you, they're going, we're going to figure out how to build as much equity in you as possible as a character, so we can make as much money off of you as humanly possible. What is AEW's plan? Like, because let's look at Wardlow. What was the plan here? You had a guy who, had he been booked properly, was the second coming of Goldberg, would have legitimately been an AEW self-made star, and probably should have been world champion 2 times over. Where is the dude? Guy's been twisting in the wind for the better part of 3.5, almost 4 years. Same thing with Powerhouse Hobbs. Well, I know they just threw him with Joe, but okay, great. What's going on? What's the plan here? If it wasn't for Mark Henry, getting Hobbs for the first couple of years, he probably would have been no different than a Scorpio Sky. Speaking of which, where the hell is Scorpio Sky? You know? So that's really the big thing here. That's the difference between the two cons. One is interested in building equity and has a plan, and sometimes shit happens, and you got to figure out what to do, or how to recoup. Both creatively slash real world. The other one just signs you to sign you because he needs a new toy for his toy box. Yeah, one is playing a Richard. The one is reliving the Richard Pryor classic, The Toy. The other one is being a businessman. I don't know about you, but I don't. I know who I would rather be working for, especially in terms of building up long-term viability for myself as a character.
Should Nick Khan do a hiring freeze? Because we're getting to the point now where he's signing people and we're just now going, all right, well, there's not enough room. Like Aleister Black has now joined the roster. Rusev
Mhm.
has joined the roster. Now you hear that Jeff Cobb is going to be joining. He'll be on the main roster. Oh, by the way, you still have Hoga Hikalea. He's supposed to come on the main roster.
Mhm.
I get it. You always like adding talent. It's always finding the next big star. But if you're Nick Khan, and I'm putting it on him because he's the one who can actually talk to both Triple H and The Rock and go, look, we need to get on the same page and get them on the
Yeah.
same page.
Mhm.
At what point does he go, we need a hiring freeze because we're going to have to let some talent go? And even then, this roster is over capacity. We're not adding a fourth show anytime soon.
Yeah. No, I do agree. The roster is a little too bloated. You've heard me say it 1,000 times, especially with the women. If you're not going to give the woman a show, even if it's just an hour, what is the point of having all these women on the roster? It doesn't matter that you threw another title at them. Frankly, the women's title should be the same as the women's tag team titles. It should be a multi-show belt that allows you to tell multiple stories across the different shows, so that the girls get as many reps as humanly possible. It's a little different with the guys. You can be static with the guys, but when we have to be mindful, girls have a shorter lifespan than the guys. There is such a thing as there is a biological clock. There are wear and tear issues. So they, they're it's going to be a rarity where you see someone like a Luna Vachon or even a Medusa have this robust, 20 plus year career where they pretty much go through nonstop. It's going to look more akin to like a Trish Stratus where they're hot for 10 years and then they're gone. And maybe they pop back up here every once in a blue moon. Let's be realistic. We're looking at Charlotte, Becky, Bailey. Yeah, I think there'll be another person I'll throw on the list at some point, but the reality of it is, yeah, listen, they kind of the fact that they're still going is unique, right? And Becky hasn't really been on TV consistently in what, 2.5, almost 3 years because she had a kid. you know, and that's normal. It's perfectly normal, right? There's life outside of wrestling, but that's the reality of when you have female talent. Those are things you have to be cognizant of. Guys can multitask it a little bit better. They can take the pounding a little bit longer, and the ebb and flow of their career is a lot more malleable. The so, but on the other part of it too, there are a lot of guys too. So if you're not gonna like back in the day, like I would say Attitude Era, right? Think about it. Fine, you had Raw, and then eventually SmackDown came. But the reality of it is that you had a bunch of syndicated shows. If you were New York, you had WWF New York, you had Jacked, you had Metal. Later came Velocity. And sure, most of that was there was always the same three matches across all four shows, but the other shows also may have had one extra match that the other one didn't have. The commentary was different, the video packages were different. So guys who weren't really being used a lot on the regular show were still getting reps and still getting crowd exposure. Like I look at Frankie Kazarian. Frankie, when they were ready to start using Frankie, Frankie won undefeated in the WWE. That's unheard of. He was undefeated in the WWE, and they told that story across Velocity, and I think what eventually Heat. The and they did that so that when they were ready to debut him on the main roster, that he would have had this massive streak going, that they could have video packaged. They were training the audience to react to Frankie as if he was a big deal. So that's why you need that. Frankly, that's why you need those other shows. So without when they decided to go to Peacock and abandon the network, yes, they sacrificed a little bit of control over what they could put out. But I also don't think that it's beyond the pale to think that if they really wanted to make another show that aired exclusively on Peacock, that Peacock would say no. You know what I mean? The So you have this massive roster, but no way to really showcase them, and it's just you got to figure what to do. So, but there is a reason why they do hire so many people, and a lot of it has to do with rebuilding the indies. I think we've touched on this before. Between the ID program, what's the athletes one? I brain
The
farting here.
NIL program, yeah,
Yeah,
next in
yeah,
line.
yeah. The next in line program, the NXT kids, they know, and even some of the indie darlings who get signed who don't necessarily make it to TV often, but you're in the system. The idea is that the indies are in such bad shape because of the lack of qualified veterans to run schools, because there are a lot of schools, and there are even more schools that are being run by people who have no business running a school, who never had the big exposure, who never got the appropriate education, who just were either never stars or around stars. So there's a lot of schools right now that are giving out a lot of bad information, and creating even worse habits. So the idea is we're going to sign a lot of people, we're going to get them into our system. They know that probably a little more than half are not going to make it. But they're also saying, but half of that half will return to the wild. They will go back into the indies. And if they only retain half of what we taught them, it's still 100% better than what's out there in the indies right now. So they're kind of playing a war of attrition in terms of getting the indies to a place where if I'm a brand new kid who wants to learn how to do this, by the time I jump in another 10 years from now, I may be in a spot where my education is significantly better in terms of how to work, in terms of the business of doing business, and how to conduct myself like a professional versus where we are now. Because we're not in a good place right now. The indies are running on fumes, and it's only just by virtue of people will go see anything that the indies you can that certain indies are allowed to pretend that they're viable, but it's a shit show in the indies. So it's they're trying to build for the future, knowing that a lot of people that they sign are not going to make it. For the folks who do make it and do get to the other side, um, you know, you do Hunter's willingness now to sign people in their 40s it creates a little more opportunity because again, you don't really know what you have to be doing this for at least 10 years before you can be in a spot where you can say anything with any real confidence. And that also comes down to what were those 10 years? If you were just slumming it in some shit small school and only doing that school's shows and you weren't seeing different crowds, well, then no, your 10 years is different than somebody who was out there hoofing it, going across the country and working as many big shows as possible. And if you couldn't get booked, you were at least observing, learning, and having conversations with vets, or you were somebody who got lucky and you've only ever been on big shows. There's a difference, but at the very least, you can't talk about doing this with confidence until you've done it for at least 10 years and have had at least 1,000 matches. The so it, it becomes a yeah. I lost the initial point that I was trying to make, but the for the guys who make it to the big roster, I don't know. I do I get it. I understand why they sign a lot of people. I do think they need to slow down. They do think they need to slow down in terms of pulling in names. Oh, I'm sorry, I got it back. So the Hunter is creating new opportunity for guys who probably wouldn't have seen it, definitely into the Vince era. So you're getting a little more mileage out of those guys. And again, modern training, modern exercise, dieting, nutrition. You have extended the lifespan of the modern athlete by years. By years, we're talking, being in your 40s today is radically different than being in your 40s in 2020. I'm sorry, the early 2000s, early 2000s, mid 90s. It's just a different. It's a different kind of animal. It's a different kind of animal. I mean, think about this. When Hogan wrestled Triple H in the early 2000s and Triple H took the title off of him, Hogan was in his what? His mid to early 40s. So you take that Hogan, that caliber athlete in the form of Hogan versus a guy like a Bobby Lashley, versus a Brock Lesnar versus Cena. They're radically different creatures. Look at Jericho in his 50s. When AEW first started, Jericho in his 50s versus Terry Funk in his 50s. We're talking about very different kinds of athletes now. So you have more time with them. But that also does mean, that there could be more injuries. And the show must go on. You do have to have a deep bench. The one good thing that I will give Hunters with the guys is that he has cultivated the largest main event roster I think we've seen since the close of the Attitude Era. where you had where you could do things like the 6-pack challenge and still have guys left over, right? Because at one point you had what? You had Austin, Rock, Hunter, Taker, Angle, Jericho, Benoit. Then you get the WCW guys, and you got Booker, you got RVD. Shit, you can even honestly, if you really wanted to, you could throw Rikishi in there technically. The and I know I missed a few. So at one point in time on this roster, you had a roster of over 12 main eventers, and you hadn't even factored in the younger kids who were coming in from the OVW class, right? Because you still had to factor in the arrival of I'm sorry, HBK was back,
And
so you
guys
still
like
have
Edge and guys like even
yeah,
Shelton
exactly.
Benjamin.
Yep, yep.
No, I
Yeah,
get
so
yeah.
so you get so like they have to have a deep bench. They have to have some flexibility. But so it's hard. I get it. I get it. It's we can sit back as a consumer and be irritated, like, well, they haven't done shit with Apollo Crews. Think about it, but I go, well, you know what? For Apollo Crews, I want you to think about it. Apollo Crews has been on the roster longer than Stone Cold Steve Austin was. How weird is that?
It is, but I'm glad he brought up weird. I'm glad he brought up, the other topic, which is pushing things. And that leads me to a separate topic with Nick Khan on WWE Unreal. That's his baby because that comes from the HBO 24
Mhm.
7, Hard Knocks, the road to the Stanley Cup, the countdown shows. That's entertainment. And I get it. Wrestlers are unhappy because they don't like to peel the curtain. We've heard, of course, podcasters. I don't mean to be mean to all of them because I respect them, but how much of this is grow the F up? This has been coming down the pipeline for 20 years. It's now finally wrestling being dragged into the we need access, tons of access, stats, 24 stats, and people want
Yep.
to know everything that goes on. And well, this is the price of those big paychecks.
Well, at the end of the day, right, the WWE, this has been coming for a long time. If anybody watched Total Divas didn't just pull the curtain back; it pulled it off with a rod. We saw them talking about booking and writing decisions. But here's the thing about Total Divas: Total Divas was also still a work. They have mastered the ability to pull back the curtain but still work the information that you're getting. If they weren't positive that they knew how to present this without totally exposing themselves, they wouldn't do it. But you have to give the audience what it wants. This also adds validity to the WWE product. This is about maximum exposure. If they were uncomfortable, if they wouldn't do it. That's just the end all be all of it. And well, this ruins kayfabe. The fact that the fact that people who are not in wrestling know what kayfabe is means that kayfabe is already broken. It's shattered to a billion pieces. Vince went on TV somewhat 40 something years ago, well, almost 50 years ago, and told everybody it wasn't real. And we've been operating in there since then. What the WWE does is they go, we know you guys know it isn't real. So all they do is we're asking you to do us a favor and just suspend disbelief for a little bit, and we're going to give you some fantastical shit. And that's what they're masters of, right? The Because you can turn around and have an absolute killer in the form of Brock Lesnar massacring people left, right, from here to Sunday, and establish the fact that yes, everything you think about Brock Lesnar is valid, but still tell the story in a way that you can believe that Cody Rhodes did defeat him. And then later have Brock Lesnar drive up to the ring with a freaking with a freaking bulldozer and flip a ring and give you a moment that people talk about for the next 30 years. They understand what they're doing. Everybody playing armchair Tony Khan needs to chill or rather Nick Khan needs to chill the hell out. If Triple H wasn't comfortable with it, if the chairman of the board wasn't comfortable with it, it would not happen. Everybody sat down and figured out how to tell this story and tell it in a way that doesn't give anything away. But you know what it really does is it teaches all these dumbass indie bookers who think that they're experts how to better do their job. Because I've said it 1,000 times on here. If you're running shows, if you're trying to run a company, if you're not trying to emulate, not duplicate, but emulate the WWE machine, then you're just marking out and you're wasting everybody's time. Case in point, AEW. You know, they want to be the WWE, but they don't want to operate like the WWE. So everybody needs to calm the hell down and shut up. It's watch the show, see what you think about it. If you don't like it, don't put a gun to your head. You don't have to watch the shit. But outside of that, you're the virtue signaling and the white knighting for the protection of kayfabe. Oh, shut the fuck up. The fact that you can freely use it means that what you're trying to do is already a glorious waste of time.
For the wrestlers, how much of it is, and I get it, they don't like showing this private stuff. I understand they also feel like, oh no, he got exposed. They had to have seen this coming. I mean,
Well, again,
this
if
past
you're
weekend, the NFL draft, it was how many people watched it? Over 150 million people. They go into people's rooms. They go into the scouting room, the war room. You see that with Hard Knocks. You see
yep,
that with 24/7. Granted,
yep.
there's a control of it, which let's not kid ourselves. WWE has final say over everything here, but they had to have known this has been a war or a movement that's been going on for almost 20, 30 years, slowly creeping its way into pro wrestling. Should the wrestlers have realized this was going to happen? It's like, the people who
Well,
years ago said, oh, we don't want slavery, we want to keep slavery. No, it was going to die. You were the last people to, hold on to hope, but it was going to die eventually.
Well, yeah, I laughed. You're right. Yeah, we could talk about touch on that where the country was heading naturally before that all went down. But is it if you're a WB employee, the one thing that you realize really quick is there are cameras everywhere. Everything is filmed. Everything has always been filmed. Vince was 50 years ahead of everybody else in terms of needing be real footage to further enhance storytelling or to control your own narrative. Right? Everything is filmed. The only place that doesn't get filmed, unless you need to be very specific and say, "Please don't follow me," it is the sanctity of the locker room where people are getting naked, and even then, there's still a possibility that a camera can come in. So everything they do is filmed, which is why it made it easy for them to control how they wanted to do a show like Total Divas. So which is why it took them 32 seconds to crank out that mini documentary to try to spin the narrative of what happened at last year's WrestleMania, right? Everything is filmed. Everything has been filmed for the better part of 60 freaking years. So they again they know how to tell that if you're a talent there, you know that when you go there, the mindset is that one they have the Dusty mentality. We make movies, we make entertainment. We're more than a wrestling company. Um, with Hunter being in charge, yes, it's more you can now embrace the fact that you're a wrestler, but you are a entertainment global entertainment machine that produces dozens of hours of weekly content. Um, y- you know, it, right? I mean, dozens upon dozens of hours of weekly content. The you can't be shocked when things like this happen. If you don't want to participate, they will most likely not make you participate. But you need to be prepared that yeah, you're gonna have to answer these questions and a lot of the stuff that's happening that they're gonna show you in camera is stuff that would be happening anyway. So hey, how do you feel about this? Blah 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 blah. All that stuff got filmed and has been filmed because at some point in time it was going to be released eventually. It was going to be released eventually. The that was Vince's grand design, and they've been putting that grand design in practice forever. Since the first Coliseum video home release it's just it's the content has been free flowing since the dawn of the VHF tape. So everybody needs to chill out and just watch it. Just watch it. And again, if you're wrestling, you don't want to do it, then fine. You don't have to participate. But at the end of the day, more people wound up knowing who Daniel Bryan was. More normies wound up knowing who Daniel Bryan was. John Cena became a more viable Hollywood star. More people knew who the Bellas were, not from Monday Night Raw, but from Total Divas, from it being on the E channel. That show had a massive audience. So if you're, I would think that if you're looking to to find some viability, build a little extra equity, in terms of your character, in the public zeitgeist, you should be jumping at a chance to get on this show. And again, because of how it's presented, it also affords the sport, for however you want to look at it, it affords the sport to 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 have to be viewed with a certain lens of credibility, in the way that you know, in a way that you get to enjoy with the NFL and the NBA when you go behind the scenes. Because ultimately, it's going to make the characters slash the wrestlers more personable, more personable, more readily accepted by fans. And people like the journey. People love the journey. So you're giving them a little peek. Hey, this is what we want to do. This is how we're thinking about getting there. And by the time you see this on TV, well, you already know how it played out. So we're not doing anything that's spoilerific. You're getting to see you're getting to see the person's journey on along the road to what you watched on TV months ago. So again, this isn't like we're going to be watching this concurrent to Monday Night Raw. We're going to be months behind. We're going to be months behind it. So the it, again, it's supplemental material that adds credibility, viability, and equity to everybody involved. There is no downside here.
Speaking of downside here, you guys at Toonie Town did a great job. You brought up a Rock, the interview here, and I get what you're saying. Of it, Rock, every Rock, grew up in the business, so he when he talks about kayfabe and everything, how much of it is just purely this? I know everybody doesn't want to say it because we sound mean. He sounds phony. He sounds like he's saying one thing in the back of his mind. He's going, "You stupid idiots! Who the hell are you? I'm the Rock. Just go f yourselves." Does anybody have a problem with it? Do they need to have him just go away for almost even a year plus? Because it's gotten to the point now where people look at The Rock and he could probably, say, "Hey, I'm saving kittens for the sake of the world," and we would still think, "Man, you're kind of an a-hole. You really don't like us," because it just his tone, the way he spins stuff, it sounds just almost like a politician, where that he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and we're all the idiots.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about it last week. He's he's drowning in Hollywood speak. He to a certain extent, well, listen, when he won on McAfee, right, to spin this, right, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of blame to go around. The blame does not just fall on the Rock's shoulders. It just doesn't, and it's silly to only put on the Rock's shoulders. The WWE knew long ago that there was a high possibility that he probably wasn't going to be there. Right? He had filming obligations. The match was supposed to be Rock versus Roman. That got canceled for a reason. It got canceled for a reason. The the so there were a lot of creative levers that could have been pulled. There was a lack of guidance given to Travis Scott that should have been given, especially given the fact that he is a fan. Travis Scott is a fan and not someone who is a trained professional. So there are a lot of things that went wrong, and all those interviews that got done leading up to and after was all about damage control, all about narrative control. What I think killed The Rock versus Triple H's appearances is The Rock is so used to only speaking to Hollywood and to Hollywood types, that he forgot how to talk to regular people. So when he does that McAfee interview, he's talking like he's on Drew Barrymore. He's talking like he's doing a press conference. He's talking like he's sitting in a boardroom with a bunch of other Hollywood types trying to explain a creative failure and how to minimize the damage and what they could have done versus what they should have done versus what was intended to be done. Instead of just being like real talk, yeah, this was a shit ending, but go watch Raw tonight. We're gonna make up for it. Blah 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 blah. Again, we're also watching two massive egos clash, and no one and with no one with no one really in a position to pull them together and say, hey, knock it off, damn it. There's only probably two people who can, and for whatever reason they didn't, and it's probably because they were probably reeling still from the super negative backlash, which is a rarity for the WWE to get, even during the Vince era, and with like the most vitriol we've gotten for the WWE since that asinine Hell in a Cell with the Fiend and Rollins. Other than that, how many times have you really seen something happen where the creative was so bad that people lost their shit over it? It doesn't really happen often in the WWE. And so
Well,
for
I'd fire back because basically we saw that a lot with Roman versus Undertaker. Roman winning the Royal
yeah,
Rumble and The Rock
that
went
was
out, and yeah, that
yeah.
was
That's different. That's different than internet fans and smart fans not liking an outcome versus doing something that's so disastrous that everybody goes, now that's shit. The Yeah, that Philly crowd, when the year Roman won the Rumble, that should have been Bryan Danielson's Rumble. Yes, but that Philly crowd hijacked the show and voiced their negative feelings on it. But look at what happened. You come out 2 weeks later and you get the big yes movement, Occupy Raw thing, and everybody fucking Batista, right? That was the Batista one. Everybody forgets, and you move on. The I'm talking like it was so bad that everyone was like, "What the hell just happened?" They don't get that often. You get a lot of us going, man, I wish they would have done that differently, or what are they thinking? Not a what the fuck was that? Like, again, Rollins loses Hell in a Cell because he got disqualified by hitting the Fiend with a chair. The Fiend is setting people on fire and breaking necks, and it's Hell in a Cell. You can do whatever you want. Well, what was this finish? Who why was anybody fired for it? The what maybe you have to go all the way back to Mae Young giving birth to a hand to have everybody like, what the fuck did I just see? Where it's so strong. You're like, what's going on? The that was, and even then, we all now understand that was just Vince's weird ass awful humor. But again, the Fiend Rollins Hell in a Cell and this year's WrestleMania are rare mega missteps where collectively all sides of the sphere are going, nah, man, you guys kind of shit the bed here. So there was panic, and again, we're seeing this happen without the ironclad leadership and doggedness of a Vince McMahon to go, well, yeah, we shit the bed, but you're still gonna do what I tell you anyway. Like they just didn't have it because if you did have a Vince there, this clash of egos would have never been this Rock Triple H power struggle thing that we think we're seeing. It would have never gotten that bad. But I digress. I digress. In my The Rock isn't the only person to blame here. I think the Rock, for someone who is such an effective communicator, um, when he fails to communicate, it is especially egregious. And this was a time where it was especially egregious. He misunderstood what he should have been doing, and he blew it. He made it worse. Not only to make it worse, He he took what should have been shared blame, and he's kind of mostly placed it on his shoulders. And it didn't help that he went at LaGreca either. I get why he went at LaGreca. LaGreca tends to get a little extra ridiculous, especially since the Cody thing. And a lot of his ire has been, when LaGreca goes at The Rock, he goes at The Rock. And sometimes you're like, well, all right, brother, is this a work or is there something here? Like, did he slap your mom? Did he slap your mom and take your sister out for a steak dinner and never call her again? Where's this vitriol coming from? The it's just so it's just I just the Rock has just kind of failed to effectively communicate, and it hurt him, and again it just further shows, like, yeah, man, like you're spending too much time in Hollywood and not enough time around regular people. You have yes men around you. You're at a what is it, at $800 million, you're you're one minor investment away from being a billionaire is really how we shake it down for him. The So at $800 million, you've surrounded yourself with yes men who are kind of allowing you to live in a bubble that's detrimental to any form of real creativity.
Just to
And
jump in,
wrestling needs viable, active, and ready to adjust on the fly creativity, not Hollywood creativity.
but you can push back a little bit on that. And this is a story which I think sums up The Rock. He years ago, there was when Rogan was on Spotify and Rogan was doing deep dives on COVID. Rock came out, supported him. I was a writer who wrote Savages. I forget his name. Said, "Oh, well, Rogan, said blah blah blah." Rogan used the N word a lot. Rock basically did a 180. Came out, "Oh, I'm sorry, brother, I didn't know. I all respect you." He's just phony. He
Well,
never comes like Triple H. At least you could go. You might not like what he said, but when Triple H said, if you don't like it, go pound sand, kiss my ass. There is that feeling that people can go, okay, he at least is a real guy. With Rock, we now get the sense of you will say anything, kiss anybody's ass. You think you're better than us, but you're not going to say it because you want us to still go to your movies, buy your merch. So to me, it's like this is the problem with The Rock. He has become the guy, like a politician, where we don't know if you're telling the truth. We don't know
well,
what you're spinning. You are spinning because you just want to make sure we like you. We love you. We might even vote for you for president 2032.
Well, The Rock is a politician. And you got to realize, too, we have watched The Rock go on a really weird journey, right? Because, especially since 2020, people who paid attention to Rock, we know that when they used to do political visits, The Rock oftentimes went to the RNC, never the DNC. We know The Rock voted a certain way until The Rock got famous enough that he probably didn't vote a certain kind of way. But we also understand that, I'm being very honest about this. Sorry, whiny liberals, there's a good chance that your favorite wrestler, at least ones who are actual athletes, don't vote the way you want them to vote. For reasons, and a lot of that is when you are an entrepreneur, when you are a bodybuilder, when you are a fighter, your achievements are self-facilitated. You have to fight, scratch, and claw to get what it is you have. There is no such thing as a bailout. There's no such anybody coming to save you. You either succeed or you fail. And when you exist in that kind of environment, your mindset tends to be a little different than other people who just either go with the flow, or maybe get a union gig or whatever. Not shitting on it, but I'm just saying it tends to be a little different than someone who was a nepo baby. Like, and there's just lots of different things there. When you are a creature of self determination, your mindset and your values tend to be a little different. We watched The Rock sell out. We watched The Rock sell out Rogan. We watched The Rock sell out Logan Paul. And for people who were fans of The Rock, Father Rock, you're like, well, what the hell's going on with this guy? Then he turned around and he what in 2020 told everybody that Kamala was a badass, right? And you watched him take a massive hit, And then, which I think is really fairly interesting that no one really talks about it, is Black Adam comes out. And because The Rock is trying to make a major power play, to secure some control over the DC IPs, we watched a relatively okay movie get critic bombed into dust. And although it performed relatively well, the record books will tell you that this was an absolute bomb. But fans liked it. It did really well on digital, did really well on physical, and did okay in theaters. You know, we know that it came closer to making its money back than all the other comic book movies that came out that year, and it was better received than all the other comic movies that came out that year. But The Rock got punished for wanting to fly a little too close to the sun, and then he has to kind of eat some shit. Gets publicly humiliated by James Gunn, right? Right. They fire Cavill. They don't actually even address him. The it's you watch Rock be publicly flogged. He gets a different kind of humiliation ritual than most, and then when it comes time for this election cycle, The Rock doesn't do what he's told to do and doesn't endorse Biden, doesn't endorse Kamala, and then kind of gets shit on again by the left. But The Rock decides that I'm going to go hang out in wrestling. I'm going to go do the things that I like to do. He does Rogan. He politically dances around answering some questions, because he has a public queue that he's very much so aware of. So he knows what his metrics are. He knows where he has to dance and he has to play and where he has to land in. And then he'll go play on Pat McAfee where maybe he can cut a little loose, but he knows he can never play too loose because he has a public image that he has to hold up for himself. Yes, The Rock is a political animal. He's a political creature, and it's very frustrating for people. But it's no different than a lot of other folks. At least I give you this. At least The Rock is upfront about the fact that yes, he is a political creature. It is what it is. But when you have the social media following that he has, when you have the box office pull that he has, when you have frankly, yes, a little bit of political pull that he has, you do have to be very careful with how you do things. It may piss us off. It's going to piss us off a lot, but it is what it is. The guy is one of the few people on this planet whose presence generates media. The Rock doesn't need media to survive. The Rock generates media. The only other person that I can think of who successfully pulls this off is a person you're not allowed to talk about in the form of Donald Trump. Donald Trump creates media. He does not need the media. He is media. The Rock is on the precipice of one more big thing happening for him. And he is a guy who generates media. The Rock doesn't need to go away. Why? Because this next time Rock's on TV, they're gonna go. The Rock is gonna be in Sheboygan, and when they get to Sheboygan, his music's gonna hit, and Sheboygan crowd's gonna cheer. They're gonna cheer like they just saw Elvis wrestling a polar bear. The Because they're gonna forget. We talk about this stuff because this is stuff that we're interested in, but we are not the normies. We're not the regular people who watch. And all The Rock has to do is cut one awesome promo, and 90% of the folks who are like us are going to forget about that too. All The Rock has to do is one thing that works, and everybody forgets about it because no matter what we want to say about ourselves, as fans, there is one truth, one universal truth about fandoms. We have really long short-term memories and really short long-term memories. And as long as you come out and do something that's entertaining, we will forgive. The only time it doesn't get forgiven is if, I don't know, you commit a double murder. And then, that's a little hard to walk away from. The Rock doesn't need to go away. The Rock just needs to shut the hell up for a little bit. He needs to shut the hell up for a little bit and come back when he's actually needed to come back. Because again, this feud, which should have been a little clear cut, and I understand some of the intentions here. Cody is a character who needs a little more depth to him. Putting Cody up against Cena, this was always going to happen. John Cena has ascended to a different place, and when you know someone's leaving, You start sensing losses. And the reality of it is every time a crowd sees John Cena, that crowd is that crowd is maybe 3 or 4 shows removed from being the last crowd. But then you realize this is the last time I'm seeing this guy. I need to relish every moment of it. Cena was always going to be cheered more than Cody. This wasn't a Hogan Warrior situation where they're both going to be on TV the next week, and maybe you get to see this happen again. This was every crowd that sees him is being told this is the last time you are seeing Babe Ruth. So they're going to respond differently versus going. You probably have another 15 years of Cody. The it's just a different mindset. The attempt here was to probably give Cody a little more depth to the character to make it a little harder. To Cody's credit, Cody did battle back in some of those promos and reflip those people. But where Cena is in terms of how people are responding to him, this is something that should have been predicted long ago. This was easy to predict, and the psychology of it is easy to deduce. The you don't know what you got until it's gone, and it's gone. It's going and going to be gone, and people are now realizing that shit. This guy was awesome. A lot of us knew this guy was awesome. We treated him like shit anyway, and we're not. This is gonna be our last chance. We're not gonna get this. We gotta appreciate what we have until it's gone because it's they're jingling the jar, and there's only about 4 or 5 M&Ms left.
Well, another I guess controversial topic. Pat McAfee will be taking on Gunther at Backlash. I'm looking forward to it. I think we need to address the elephant in the room though. Pat McAfee is a horrible broadcaster.
I
He
disagree.
doesn't he's not a heel, he's not a face, he's a fan. Is it time for WWE to start realizing, look, we it's a square peg round hole. This ain't gonna work. Let's make Pat a wrestler. Let's a wrestler manager.
I don't know.
We work with his schedule because he can do it, and he's shown he can do it. And he thrived when he was in NXT with Adam Cole and the feud with the Undisputed Era. I mean, this is a way if you ever want to get guys heat. Pat McAfee is a heat magnet.
I disagree with you wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly, I disagree with that. I think Pat McAfee is a terrific broadcaster. I would even go as far as I've said this many times. Pat McAfee to me is the second coming of Bobby Heenan when you have one with Michael Cole. They have undeniable chemistry. He is endlessly entertaining, and he is a hell of a storyteller. He gets it, and he's coming at it from a fan perspective, but also as an athlete from a different sport who does this. So it gives him a little more wiggle room. And the fact that he doesn't give two shits what anybody's going to say to him also adds an element of realism to it that hasn't been there since the last time you heard Jim Ross on your TV, right? We all know what happened about this, a couple years ago when Pat McAfee was doing the guest spots on Raw, and Vince didn't like the fact that he was wearing the suit with the shorts. He said, "Fuck you, I'm out of here," and left. And then they scrambled to get him back into the building because he wasn't going to be talked to like a child. Then they realized, okay, well, we'll let him hang out on NXT. And then you realize, well, you know what? He got trained by Rip Rogers. Let's see what this guy can do. And now he's a promo machine because he's fearless, right? He gets in the ring. Oh shit, this dude can go, and he's fearless. Pat McAfee is multifaceted. He is a veritable Swiss Army knife in terms of the entertainment that he brings. You can do whatever it is you want with him. I think if McAfee was around, like, listen, now that he has the gig with for college football, he's gone for 5 6 months of the year.
On
Um,
Fridays, yes. But
you know,
if he's on Monday Night Raw, that's a whole different story. And as you and I have talked about, they need managers. There's a lot of talent that just they have either they don't have the charisma, they don't have their voice, or they just can't cut promos. Whether it's Io Sky, Otis, the Creeds, I'd even throw in Ivy Nile.
the,
McAfee helps save that. He can talk, a mile a minute and get you believing. So
the problem with a manager like McAfee can only be with people who are main eventers. Because if you put him with someone who's less than who can't operate at his level, then it's not believable. It's just not believable. So you would need a situation like the reason the Adam Cole stuff worked when he was feuding with the Undisputed Era is because for what it was, Undisputed Era were all NXT main eventers. That was a main event act. So when you're feuding with the entire group, it works. Now, let's say if you do this in, let's say you put McAfee with, I don't know.
McAfee with the Creeds. I mean, that works perfectly. They are athletes. They need
But the
because it's
Creeds are
also.
fine though. They have Gable. They're building their way up.
I get it, but here's the
They
other thing.
they don't
Here,
need McAfee.
they do because of this also, and this I forgot to bring this up. He's protection. Chad Gable's not going to have a voice because I don't think Gable, is, in the grand scheme of things, is a guy that a Triple H Nick Khan's going to put a lot of stock into. He's like most of the other wrestlers. You take out, Chad Gable, you put him out, put him in TNA, AEW, it won't affect WWE. Guys like Heyman, guys like McAfee, they are the ones who they say, no, we're not doing this. This gimmick sucks. No, this thing isn't going to work. These guys need more. They lit people. Nick and Paul Levesque will listen and go, okay, McAfee knows what he's talking about. He has pull. I mean, that's what helps with Heyman is that when he can make sure that, hey, I'm going to keep Roman Reigns away from stupid gimmicks. I'm going to keep Roman Reigns away from corny sayings. And he can't put Heyman with almost everybody because then it gets like, well, Heyman has everybody. So with McAfee, that's what you do. You use a guy who either it's the Creeds, it's maybe Trick Williams, somebody that you have for the main event, but they don't. You can't just shove with Heyman, and you want to protect them so that you don't get them feuding with, Wyatt Six or R-Truth or Miz, and it just brings their value down.
I don't think Miz brings anybody's value down. The guy's a Hall of Famer, or will be a Hall of Famer. But I get what you're saying. But even then, McAfee does not have Heyman stroke. McAfee has their ear, but McAfee doesn't have Heyman stroke because McAfee doesn't have the amount of experience that Heyman has. And McAfee isn't the kind of storyteller that Heyman has. McAfee is great at telling a story. He's great. He's a great advocate for commentary in terms of selling someone to the fans, but in terms of selling to Nick Khan and Triple H, I think he's not quite there yet. He's not there yet. But he's a great hand to have around. I just don't. If you're gonna do that with somebody, it's got to be someone who matches his energy, and there has to be payoff. Again, McAfee is gone for giant chunks of the year. If McAfee wanted to be on Raw, he would have been on Raw, but they don't want to do that. They have chosen not to do that, to not have him travel back and forth and have to make certain Sophie's choices. They seem to be more comfortable with they are more comfortable with having him go away for a while so that he's missed. So when he comes back, he's more effective. And I think that's the right thing to do because I do think if you have Pat McAfee around all the time, it can get it can get a little stale. You got to treat McAfee like everybody's favorite uncle who shows up for a little bit is around, but you need that favorite uncle to go away for a little bit so that he doesn't burn you out. The you know the because if he's around all the time, then now he's still maybe more liked than everybody else, but now he's just your uncle. Now he's just your cool uncle. You need him to hold on to that favorite uncle status. The so again, I think McAfee is perfect in the slot that he's in. You can it allows you to do certain things with certain people. Um, Case in point, Gunther is coming off of a fairly impressive world title run. He ate a tough loss at Mania. You need for him to be viable. You need for him you need consequences for a loss. For a character like Gunther. Gunther lost. There is no imperium for him to go back to. You're not going to immediately turn around and have him start feuding with a guy who's on the come up. You need something different for him, and throwing him at a McAfee, who Gunther goes over McAfee, and Gunther gets a big win off a beloved babyface. It kind of negates rather it rebuffs any damage he took at Mania. Even I think people put a little too much credence into certain losses at certain times. You still leave him a viable threat, and then when it's time to do something with Gunther again, you can. But no, I know I think McAfee is fine where he is, man. I think this is one of the times where they know what they want to do, they know how they want to use the person, and they have a great formula that works. And I think if you're gonna tweak it, you run the risk of breaking it. And I think it's just too soon to be making any major tweaks to it. And again, there you don't McAfee needs to be with special people at special times, not with someone all the time. They do need managers, but I would think the WWE would be better suited into finding someone, like a Stokely, who they never should have let go of, to manage people. That's not McAfee's role. And that's not McAfee has a cross, has a cross sectional appeal that pulls from it pulls people from different sports into the arena. He has a different kind of celebrity. He's just a different creature, and you either treat him like he is. He essentially he's an attraction.
So who do you get for managers then? Because it's more than just talking. It's
You get
and
managers. Then you get managers to manage.
but
uh,
I'm trying, and I apologize. I'm trying to put this maybe in different explanation.
well, I get what you're saying. You
Like,
because
all right, so perfect
you need a
example.
manager.
Retribution failed because Mustafa Ali was the guy. And I love Mustafa Ali. He's killing it in TNA. We're going to talk about him later, but he couldn't go to Vince and go, Vince, this is really stupid. Vince, this doesn't work. Vince, we all look like BDSM clowns because Vince would look and go, what the hell are you? Just F off. If it's a Randy Orton, Vince would look and go, hey, I see your point. Okay, we'll do it. He'd bitch and moan a bit, but he would do it. Who do you get for guys like that? The Theories, the Creeds, as I said, Ivy Nile for evens, you know, Mishin, who they have a talent, but there is nobody who is pounding the table going, we got to be careful. If we put him in a bad gimmick, it's going to kill him. We got to be careful. If they job to the wrong person, fans will look and go, oh, yeah, they're just losers and tools.
Oh,
Stokely Carmichael's not that guy. There has to be people who can go to Vince and say, we know what's going on. We know how to write stories. Pound the table and go, we got to protect these kids. They are the next stars.
I mean, listen, that's not any manager you bring. That's not going to be any manager you bring in anyway. Unless there's someone, you would have to be like a freaking Captain Lou. You'd have to be someone who's around so long that they have the freedom to do that. That's what makes Heyman so different. Heyman is a creative force who also has a decades old um, TV presence. So he's unique. He's unique in that way. You're talking about like a Gorilla Monsoon, or a Pat Patterson, or Gerald Briscoe, you know, um, who advocate for folks that's like you're really talking about like a Michael Hayes is an agent who is an agent on the creative turns and goes, no, listen, we need to be doing XYZ for these people. You know,
So is that
managers.
McAfee vote? Because you're not going to waste McAfee on guys and put him in stupid gimmicks because you don't want to ruin McAfee as well as the other guys. So he is that insurance, that protection that when, you
Yeah,
know,
but again, you're only using McAfee for someone. It's like McAfee's an attraction. So you need McAfee for special things for special events. You're not breaking that glass often. That is a you know that's a once a year, once every 2 years thing. The Because you need something for someone to do that's different, that's off the beaten path, which is why you had that Mania moment with Theory. which devolved into the weird thing with Vince. You can, or the thing with Corbin, right? You can have him feud with Corbin because you need a heel to have something to do that if they lose, it's not going to derail them, but it creates a special moment. Yeah, that's the big thing. You gotta create a you need McAfee to create moments, not get someone through the ebbs and flows of a regular episode. Where again, a Stokely Hathaway, where the power of Stokely is someone you have someone who has a lot of potential, but maybe they're not comfortable in their skin. Right. They have a look, they've got the ring work, but speaking isn't their strong suit. And it's not because they necessarily are bad on the mic. It's just that as a character, the character hasn't been developed yet in a way that they have really anything compelling to say, and creative hasn't quite figured out the voice for them. That's the power of managers. Managers come in and weave the story and weave the mystique around the person that they're with. It doesn't matter what the creative is. The that so that Heenan, yeah, sure, fine. Heenan was special. Says yes, Heenan was also a guy who sat backstage and helped out with creative, towards the end. And helped weave the natural ebbs and flows of the stories on TV. But and sure, by virtue of where he was, he turned and go, "Hey, nah, man, this is stupid. This is stupid. Don't do this." Um, but he couldn't really super influence policy, because I'm sure if he could, Rick Rude probably would have Rick Rude would have taken the belt off of Hulk Hogan just to drop it back to Hulk Hogan at some point in time, right? Because there are tons of guys there are tons of guys who should have been world heavyweight champion but weren't. The so it's you need someone who's I get what you're looking for. Um but that's a matter of the W has just put in a concerted effort to bring in people of a certain that have a certain charisma pull that can help get people to the other side of it. And sometimes that's as simple as bringing back an old wrestler who was over, who can't take bumps, but understands how it works. The beauty of a manager was that they're usually a vet who can't bump anymore. They've seen it, they've done it all. They understand the psychology of it all. They understand how to put the promos together, but they're teaching the person that they're with how to get there. So in the meantime, while they're in school, while they're learning, while they're getting that extra tutoring, the manager is doing the heavy lifting creatively, on the promo side, and teaching the person that they're with the finer details on how to do certain things a little differently in the ring. The it's a rarity when you had someone who was just kind of there, for the sake of being there, right? Like that's how Jimmy Hart started out. But Jimmy Hart was so prolific at being a heat magnet that eventually, yeah, he turned into a guy who was teaching younger guys how to get heat. Um, or to be the heater because you're not gonna bing you're not bumping Ming and the Barbarian, right? Jimmy Hart has to be the one who takes the big bump, so that the fans could get a sense of relief, a sense of justice or comeuppance. Because that's really what an old school TV manager is for. They have a very specific role in front of the camera and behind the camera. And yes, but managers are very sorely needed in all companies right now. The only place that kind of still trying to do it as NWA, but who the hell watches NWA? And I don't say that with any disrespect. I love Wrecking Ball. That's my brother. But who the hell watches NWA? And that's the fault of Billy Corgan. Nothing to do with the talent on the roster. That's a whole other podcast for another time. But I get what you're saying. And yes, ideally, it would be someone who has the charisma that has the charisma and the microphone ability of a Pat McAfee. But Pat McAfee is just very different. Pat is an attraction. Pat has to be treated like an attraction. He's special, so he should only be put with special people at special times for special reasons. If it would happen to be the Creeds at some point in time, then cool. They're better off. They're stronger for it. But for him to be with them on a weekly basis, it ultimately winds up doing a disservice to what disservice, and it makes Pat less effective at what Pat does for the people who watch him. Um, the every once in a blue moon, like you do need to have the story where the commentators do get picked on. Well, again, think of it. Everybody, if you're over a certain age, everybody remembers when Vader beat the shit out of Gorilla Monsoon, right? How did we get there? Well, because Vader kept beating the shit out of the refs at the end of his matches. He wasn't just killing jobbers. He wasn't just killing people with wrestling. He was kicking the shit out of the ref. And eventually Gorilla had enough of it, and at his age got up and got in Vader's face. And as commissioner, when Vader wasn't backing down, Gorilla lost himself and became a wrestler. And when fucking Gorilla drops that first chop on Vader's chest, everybody pops. Oh shit, Gorilla's gonna beat this dude up. And then what happens? Vader bombs him. He then leaves Gorilla laying, and now you're heartbroken, and you're praying that someone comes out and saves Gorilla. Essentially, that's what McAfee is able to do for certain characters. Gunther grabs Cole, and we know he's about to kick the shit out of Cole. Um, but there is no real baby face on that roster unless you're willing to say this is your moment, kid, and we're pulling you up. But there's no one on the roster right now who is in that slot because you just did it for Jay the night before. And you're not racing to do Jay Gunther fucking 5 because you don't want to do that right now. So who's the person you do? Well, you have a wrestler, you have a commentator who can wrestle, who doesn't wrestle often. This is this is it. This is going to be a story that's going to pick up Gunther as a character, but not do any major damage to him. Sorry
Now,
to
speaking of creative, we went. This is more of our happy talk, where we're at least intellectual. We might disagree, but we both are sort of on the same page. Yeah. Uh, Kevin, I'm trying hard. I've been a closet Mercedes Monet fan for a while because look, she was great to Sasha Banks. When she is booked well, she's a good wrestler. And I've seen when she looks attractive, and I get it. Tony Khan gave her the bag. Who was it? Anybody in her shoes would have said, sure, not go, I really want this and this and this instead. I want to be fair. She's launched her private texting service for superfans for $99.99. It's not OnlyFans, it's texting. So we've seen here that basically my superfans have always been my superfans. Now, like friends, they can text me directly and privately. I'm so excited to finally be able to connect this way. Sign up and text me now, Mercedes. They're told it's going to be a premium service, that spots are very limited, and that she encouraged him by let's making him happen, including she's shown little questions like, Mercedes, how long have you known Snoop Dogg? And when was the last time you saw him? To, hey, are you hurt from your fight with Mio in Miwa? And all I could think of is, I got shows to Kevin Apollo. I'm ready for the rampage. I can see the look on your face, and you're ready. You're just disgusted, angry to
I, I don't really know how to process this. Like this this isn't Ricochet crying about saying the WWE stole his love of wrestling. This is different. This feels a little icky. This is like this is like back in the day. Well, like if you told me she opened up a 900 number and not an 800 number, like this is just icky. This is someone, and you know what? Listen, I get it. You know what? Good for you, kid. Go get that bag, right? This is someone taking advantage of desperate people who just want attention. The and it's not only fans. So sorry, boys, you don't get to share your dick pics. The and guys for the creepy pillow cushion sniffers out there. She's never going to ask you for one. If you send one, I hope to God she calls the police and you get what you deserve. No one wants to see your shrimp dick. Just keep it to yourself. The that said, this is her taking advantage of some desperate people that she knows are desperate for attention, and it feels icky. It feels icky. Um, it is, yeah, it just feels icky. So, I don't, I just, I don't know what you think this vapid human being has to say. Because I do think that she's a vapid human being. Her business prowess, I will say nothing negative about. She found a money mark. Right, the WWE was not willing to pay her what she wanted. Why she thinks that she deserves it is beyond me. But they weren't willing to give her what she wanted, and she found a little idiot who was willing to give her that and more. Good for her. She has taken his absurd overpayment and parlayed it into even more money. That's the name of the game. But what the hell are you going to talk to her about? You know, when Dis does the Mone mag and makes me suffer through that fucking 18 paragraph self-adulation circle jerk on paper, the I just clearly there is not much to talk about here. This is a you know whatever,
You're at a
bro.
loss for words. I never thought that would happen. I mean, usually I thought you would
Because
be
it's
one of.
I just don't know how I don't know how to discuss this. It's gross. It's icky. It's just as gross. It's gross. We know we know who is jumping on this phone or jumping on this texting service to talk to her. The fact that it's a premium service, it's just gross. It's just gross. I don't care what anybody says. It's fucking gross. The and again, she's just taking advantage. She's taking advantage of desperate people, desperate for attention, desperate to connect. Um, and it's just it is what it is. And you know what? There, it just we do have to talk about there's certain elements of the IWC that we who do need to go touch grass. You need to take a shower. You need to eat a steak. You need to go lift a weight or whatever it is that makes you not so fucking creepy. And she is talking directly to those creepy motherfuckers. And you know what? God bless her if she wants to shoulder that responsibility and have to talk to people who talk like this.
I
Oh
mean,
my
in
God, I'm
defense
so
of
tired.
Mercedes,
Ugh.
this is one defense. At least she's not pulling a Jordan Hudson and marrying Tony Khan. And next thing you know, it's she turns into Bill Belichick. I guess it's the only defense I have. I'm running out of defenses now. It's like
I get it. Yeah, listen, I get it. I get it. I get it,
I'm running out
man.
of defenses.
It is, yeah, it is better, right? Because we all know if you are of if you are a girl in her 20s and you are rolling around with a man in his 70s, 80s, and 90s, it's because you think that you just the more the more wrinkly the more wrinkly the more wrinkly and low hanging the bag that you choose put in your face means there's that many zeros in your bank account. I understand you're doing what you're doing for a reason. To me, this is no different, but a little bit better. So God bless her. Go give those creepy little bastards a ray of hope. If they want, if you're making them feel special because you replied to a text that your assistant and AI are using to respond to, hey, cool, good on you. You gave some disturbed bastard a moment of hope. And you know what? Everybody deserves to feel good. Everybody deserves to have a little bit of hope. Everybody deserves to feel paid attention to. And as gross as I think it is, she's providing some slimy bastard a service. Good on you, girl. You know what? You're motherfucking Teresa in an anime wig. You do you. You do you. Who am I to poop on your parade?
You want to poo poo. You just, as I said, it's not even, it's gone beyond you when you realize, crap. I didn't think she could go this slow, and then crap. This AEW disciplinary committee is going to try to talk me into signing up 99.99 so we can just have fun with this. Realize crap. I know people actually buy this for
Yeah,
the wrong
yeah.
reasons.
So that's it. That's it. There's some creepy bastard out there who is one thinking that they're now her best friend and that they're gonna share fucking cooking secrets, and then there's another creepy bastard out there who is just gonna be like, "Oh, so what are you wearing? Oh, what kind of detergent do you use? Oh, can I see? Can I see what can I see what your water closet looks like? Oh my God. Oh, what kind of sheets do you put in your bed? Oh, that's so cool. Thank you.
If you're
Oh,
Bailey, what do you think? Like Bailey's her best friend, and you have Bailey who's on like one spectrum, who's just professional, actually wants to help wrestlers, is considered a good locker room leader. And if you're Bailey, how much do you look at Mercedes and go, "How the hell have I become friends with this person? Do I need to change my number? Do I need to just move away?" It's getting creepy now. Even for the wrestlers, probably looking at Mercedes, going, "Is there any shame? Anything? Is there anything even you won't do for a buck?"
you know, listen,
You're having a
I,
hard time. You're like, holy crap.
well,
She
because,
actually might get impregnated by Tony Khan and then have his love child take over half of Jacksonville Jaguars. Well,
oh
we say
God,
it won't happen, but with this, it's like
but it could,
it's
it
one
could. I would
step
be shocked.
just
I
closer.
would be shocked. Well, because I'm trying not to be a hypocrite because I do have friends. I do have friends who have forbidden link, who have forbidden links.
Yes, OnlyFans. And I know a
You
lot
know,
of adult performers who are OnlyFans.
yeah,
They're upfront about it. They look,
yeah,
this is what we do. We are selling
yeah.
this here.
Yeah, like so, like I don't. I'm like, it's like it might be something that it's not something I would do. It's not something I would ever want my daughters to do. But you know what? You have more money in your bank account than I do, and you are at least you're open about it. You're not pretending it's anything other than what it is. And you know what? Outside of that, I think you're a perfectly lovely human being who who's just it's what you do for work is what you do for work.
But again, Bo, it's with her,
I
it's a
don't,
whole different thing. I
it
started
is
to,
what it is.
it's,
I just think that this is purposely predatory. This isn't like this is I think there's a difference between going, hey, you know what? I've got a decent body. I've got a decent body, and I know someone's gonna pay me to show it off. This is someone going, you know what? There's some fucking creeps out there who I think are creeps. I have no real regard for them, but because of my status, and because I'm moderately attractive, they're gonna pay to bask in my they're gonna pay to bask in my glory. So I'm gonna make them pay $9.99 and give me money. This she's essentially she is essentially cashing out on a pay pig men on pay pigs. But saying but going, well, this isn't porn. You just get to talk to me. But and that's where I go, like I have no respect for the folks who are predatory, who prey on people who feel lonely, who desire a connection, as misguided as it might be. I think she's being a predator. But at the same time, who am I to say you shouldn't do it? I
No,
just
here's why you can say she shouldn't do it, because she already has money. It's not like, as I said, I'm going to name drop some people. When it's a Sherry DeVille, when it's a Reagan Fox, when it's a even Sydney Page, they're doing this because this is our main income. We are not getting anything else. We are self business women here. We are hustling. We're putting money into this. We are not overcharging just because we want more money, because this is our income. She's getting paid big bucks at AEW. She's getting, she has merchandise. She's all this stuff. Like, why do you need to do this? It's like, why is it not? This is just now like going to the hospital, if you're a lawyer, finding some poor person who's dying, trying to give them hope, and knowing that these suckers, I'm going to bilk them so I can get an extra swimming pool.
yeah, dude, yeah, man, I just that yeah, no, that's kind of where that's why I'm having so I'm like I just can't wrap my head around that level of greed and desire to want to take advantage of someone. You don't need it. You don't need it. Like, how much more attention do you need? Because it starts diving to, well, shit, how fucking broken are you as a person on the inside? That one, you're willing to prey on people desperate, but we also know you're doing it because you need your ego is insatiable. Your your self-importance is through the roof. So you need like this is like not only is she taking advantage of people, but she fucking needs this too. She needs someone to tell her how fucking fantastical she is, and that she is the shining sun at the center of their fucking universe, or she can't function. The fact that she went to AEW and has wasted everybody's time and isn't over the way that she thinks it should be over, that she hasn't attained Becky levels of success, that she hasn't attained Charlotte levels of success, that she hasn't attained even Bayley levels of success, burns her ass. And drives this fucking lunacy, which makes her run out and get all these fucking mark belts and do all these shit shows. Um, and pose like this. This is a fucking broken weeb, a wannabe, who resents the fact that Vince saw fucking through her, and it was like, nah, you're not the one. You're not the one, and didn't really give two shits as she tantrumed on out the door and kept it moving. So I just this kind of it's like there's just so much for me to fucking process that I don't even know how to talk about it yet. Because it's just unbelievable to me that you have such an insecure person that they need their ass kissed in such a way. They need their ass kissed in such a way that they're going to do this, and that they're also so damn predatory that they're willing to take advantage of people who are lonely, who are broken on the inside, and take money from them when you have more money than you could ever fucking need as a person at such a young age. And you're not even fucking that good at what you do. You're mid at best. So you got more money than you could ever fucking need, and you're just okay at your fucking job. And I think it's that being mid and knowing that she's mid that fuels this fucking hell beast. And so I just it just it's I don't know, man. I have a hard time dealing with things that I just find fundamentally sad, and I personally think this is just sad all the way around. I think it's sad that people are willing to give her money for to have a fucking conversation with her assistant and AI because you're not fucking talking to her. She hates you, so you're not talking to her. I think I find it very sad that she's so broken and hollow on the inside that she just really comes across as someone who chews other people up and spits them out and uses them to elevate herself. That she's chasing something that she's never gonna find because she can't be satisfied. I mean, look at what she fucking rode her poor ex until he wasn't useful anymore and then dumped his ass. She tried to get Bailey to sabotage her career with her by throwing temper tantrums. She fucking fooled Naomi into sabotaging her career for a year. When Naomi was going to be the center of attention, because that tantrum wasn't about being strong, powerful black women together. That was about you're not giving me the attention I deserve, so I'm going to throw a tantrum tonight, even though it's Naomi's chance to shine. It's Naomi's chance to shine. We want her to shine. Nope. Nope. It's not about me. It's not about me. So I'm going out the door. And I'm gonna drop some fake blacktivist power bullshit and trick you into making a mistake and not look back and not look the fuck on back when you're left on the balls of your ass, because that's what happened there. So I just this bitch is a predator, but she's fucking mentally broken and empty, and it just you can't fill. I don't care. It doesn't matter how many creeps tell you that you're wonderful. She can't fill that fucking rotten hole in the middle of that cantankerous fucking bottomless pit, because she doesn't like herself, and that's where I'm at on it. You want to give this bitch fucking 9.99 so you can feel special, bro? I'm not your therapist, but you know what? I'll have a more meaningful and productive conversation with you for fucking 7.99, and give you a little more meaning to your life, than you're gonna get from this fucking wretched creature, this fucking Wendigo.
Well, get ready. We're doubling down because your favorite guy,
Oh
Ricochet,
god, dude, I can wrap it up
recently.
in two
I
seconds.
got to set it up for you. It's like you're teeing off on this is home run derby, so I'm going to tee it off for you. Ricochet recently came out and said that no, the main reason why he left WWE was it ruined my love and passion for sport that I grew up loving. AEW helped me find that love again. Tony Khan recently said in an interview that he is Ricochet, one of the most compelling and interesting people in wrestling. He's building one of the best characters in wrestling, which is the villain Ricochet that we see on TV right now. Ricochet also is basically quoted when Nick Khan said about recruit about signing guys from AEW. Goes, oh man, these guys effing suck. But hey, Daniel Bryanson and Ricochet keep wanting me to tell you, Kevin Apollo, they're not attacking WWE. They're innocent. Ricochet is a victim. You, Kevin Apollo, are a mean E-Fed guy because you're picking on poor Ricochet. That's the motto. I'm repeating what they're telling me. Kevin Apollo is the bad guy. Ricochet is a misunderstood.
I wonder if he finally blocked me yesterday, because I saw that he went on this fucking whiny bitch rant about people making fun of him for being bald. I'm like, don't you shave your head? I was like, and he's like, but I'm the bad guy, and you get mad at me when I tell you that you're fat, even though you control that with your fitness. And I'm like, bro, that's the point, though. Like, one, you shave your head, so why do you care if someone's saying that you're bald? Do people care about baldness anymore? The like, I think black dudes with bald hair have been a staple since what, the end of the 90s? Who cares? Who cares? The two, you're the bad guy. You're supposed to be shitty to people. It's like, and if this really upsets you that much, bro, you're being paid to be shitty to people. Like, so like you're winning. Why are you crying about this on social fucking media, you vagina? The it blows my fucking mind. Two, bro, the WWE killed my love of wrestling. Brother, you got to NXT, and once you flipped out of the ring two or three times, you had nothing left to offer. You cut these timid ass nerd promos, and you were not threatening to anybody. And it's wrestling, so throwback to the fucking gladiator days. If you're gonna be a viable character as a wrestler, you have to be intimidating. You have to come across as a threat. The comedy bullshit, the nerd bullshit does not translate. And I say this as somebody who's a fucking nerd. I'm a nerd. I have no problem admitting that I'm a nerd. But, I also understand that if I was going to do what I had to do, I had to exist as a daywalker. I went and played fucking rough and tumble sports. I did what I had to fucking do. I lift weights. As much as I would love to fucking go out there and cut a promo and fucking Klingon, I'm not going to, because no one understands that. You're gonna get laughed at. And you know what? You fucking should. You should be. The As much as I love Big E, there's a reason why Big E's title run got cut short. He refused to toughen up and kept doing the nerd shit, the pancakes, and the just happy to be here shit. When you're a fucking champion, you don't have that option. You need to be you need to be the baddest motherfucker who walks in the room, not some smiley ass. And these guys refuse. Look at Keith Lee, fucking another guy with fucking poor rich guy problems. You're over here trying to cut these boring ass Fraser Crane fucking promos that no one gets. It's like, stop it, dude. You're as big as a fucking house. Act like it. Walk around like it. No one cares you do a little fucking flippy do. When you throw a punch, when you throw a forearm, it looks like dog shit. It looks like pussy shit. So I'm not into what you're doing. I'm not buying what you're selling because you can't throw a punch. If I can watch a match and go, I can whoop that guy's ass, as a wrestler, you have failed at your job. Ricochet was a fucking nerd. He was failing at his job. Once you, because I'll give it NXT is a little NXT, right? NXT is probably the closest we're gonna get to seeing the revitalization of the old school ECW crowd, right? They love wrestling. They love all different kinds of wrestling. They love the lucha. They love the Japanese style. They love the American infusion. They they don't care about the goofy gimmick. They want to see the athleticism. And if you're someone who can really cut a promo, they love you even more. But really, they just want to see athletes do athletic shit. But when you get to the main roster, when you hit the big time, when you hit the big leagues, it's a different animal. You are an entertainer. You're not just a wrestler. You're an entertainer. You are someplace where the main goal is to make movies. Every match, every storyline is designed to weave a continuing narrative that tells a compelling story, slash a freaking miniature movie. The so when Ricochet shows up on the main roster, and once he jumps out of the ring and does the superhero pose, that's it. There's nothing left there to it. What does Vince McMahon do? He goes, I see some potential in this kid. We have to rehabilitate his image. And they pump in countless dollars into showing him doing martial arts, into putting him in predicaments where he can show a more aggressive side to his personality, where they're trying to toughen him up and make him credible and make him viable and giving him big wins where he shouldn't get big wins, or making him ultra competitive with somebody where he probably couldn't have been ultra competitive. Um, he would have had if he didn't have fucking pictures of him banging his asshole with his thumb, he would have had a match with Brock Lesnar and been put to and then put at a different level. But well, you didn't control what was on your cell phone. Either that was on you, but they still continue to try to make it work anyway. Anyway. And they got to the point where he was becoming a viable competitor, where people were cheering for him when you heard his music, and weren't just looking for him to hit the fucking flippy dippy and go on about his business. He was getting slightly better on the microphone because he sounded like he had a little bit of fucking confidence. Like there may have been a little fucking weight in his fucking balls. The and then instead of taking the time to do the hard thing and figure out what it was he needed to progress, he decided it was easier to take the bitch route, go mark out, go do the flippy dippy shit. Realize that he is now a slightly bigger than medium fish in a really small pond, and take his minuscule promo skills and run rampant over the over the mute idiots that were down there, right? Because he realized that he could mark out for himself, because in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, and he is the Cyclops, right? He's the Cyclops running roughshod, cutting weird ass lame promos. But they're better than the fucking rest of the dog shit that you see on the show. The and just kind of beclowning himself. And fine, hey, whatever, man, it's working. But if it's working in AEW, what does that really mean for you? Because who the fuck watches AEW? These guys, the sickos are so desperate for attention that think we beat NXT. Like no, within 15 minutes of that massive lead, no one was watching the fucking show. So no, that wasn't your real rating. But we're gonna take what we can get because we're desperate for something that vaguely resembles success. I have no tolerance for poor little rich guys. That's why I'm so irritated whenever you have to deal with like a person like Moxley. Moxley's a guy who should have been on top. Kept telling everybody he was a top guy, and when he got the opportunity to be a top guy, he ate shit. He ate shit. AJ Styles showed up and did something that was unheard of for a non WWE guy. You come in from a different company, and within months, you're top dog in John Cena, and now you're heavyweight champion over a guy who was groomed from the inside and was presented as a major player. Because the guy who was presented as a major player shit the bed. Ricochet's another guy who shit the fucking bed. The it just blows my mind. These dudes can't be fucking honest with themselves. They're so delusional. The ability to mark out for themselves is so strong that they're willing to peddle bullshit to anybody who will lap it up. I was like, you were given a golden opportunity, many golden opportunities. You were taught skills that people would kill to learn, and you squandered it, and continue to squander it because you wanted to go slum it. You wanted to take the easy way. And you're fine. You found some money mark who's going to pay you a lot of money because you did something moderately okay in the big leagues, which means you're going to do it better in the minor leagues. All right, good for you, bro. Whatever helps you sleep at night. But no matter what happens, anybody's really paying attention understands that you're just another fucking bitch with too much time in her hands.
My biggest issue with both Ricochet and Danielson is not even this, just complaining. It's this is that you have branded you guys. They branded themselves as the challenger brand. Hey, we're taking out WB. And they never say, "Whoa, we're declaring war," but they always with Tony Khan going, "Hey, WB, the Predator," the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling, with Bryan Danielson going, "Hey, I never loved WB." It bothers me that with all these guys, they get cute around. They never directly say we challenge WWE, but they're always making little snipe comments here and there. And it seems like when you fight back at them, they get very upset. Like, oh, how dare you? This is tribalism when you guys have started it. You've basically played into it. You've just been very cheeky about it.
The tribalism excuse is bullshit, right? They the WWE does not even consider them an alternative brand, right? Like they're very busy trying to tell everybody they're Pepsi to WWE's Coke. They're not. They're not. They're not even like Tab or RC Cola. They're fucking Shoprite brand. They're Shoprite brand cola. The or Piggly Wiggly Cola, depending on where you are when you listen to this. They're store brand at best. Not shitting on store brand. I buy store brand because I'm cheap. The but they're not competition. They want to be competition. They wouldn't think they're competition, but they're not competition. They're crying about tribalism, but the tribalism isn't really there. The tribalism is one-sided. And if the tribalism was really going to be a thing, well, the tribalism would have been a problem when there was a legitimate war for supremacy. When you had two shows on at the same night going head to head for hours. And and it was actual fight for survival of one company. And then you had the third outsider, revolutionary brand that was just causing problems for everybody. So like there was actually a war for attention. But what happened? What do those fans do? They watched every fucking thing that came across their plate. They went out, they looked for tapes to see stuff in Japan and Mexico that they couldn't get here. They were we were eating great in early 2021, and then in March it all just went away, right? Because You had Raw, SmackDown, Nitro, Thunder, Worldwide, and ECW. You had Hardcore TV and Wild Women of Wrestling, and then March comes, and it's all gone. The But people weren't thinking about tribalism back then. Sure, you had your people who were DX people or they were NWO people, but you still watched. Or I'm gonna watch Nitro first. I'll watch Raw later, or I'll watch Raw now and I'll catch Nitro on the replay. There were those people, but they still watched. To be tribalistic now is nonsense, and most people are not tribalistic. The tribalism exists because AEW has turned itself into a clown brand that's not to be taken seriously, that gives everybody a huge X factor. And when you talk about how shitty the show is, these butthurt dweebs get upset that you don't like the thing that they like. But the problem is, and I mean this like a 90s kid thing, the fucking show is gay. It's lame. It's fucking lame. And the worst part is, now it's boring. At least when it was the drizzle and shits, it was so chaotic that like it was compelling to watch. Now it's all this shit, but now it's like watching paint dry. And this guy is a chief motivator behind it being so damn boring now. So he can say what he wants. Oh, they restored my love of it. No, it restored your ability to be a fucking mark. You just wanted to be a mark. You want to do the matches you want to do. You want to wrestle the people you want to wrestle. You don't want any feedback because you think you know better. And now because you get to do shit that got shot down because it was fucking lame, you get to do it here. All right, bro. Good on you. I'm glad you're happy. For Danielson, I don't understand what bug is called up his ass because the WWE made him a lot of money, gave him a lot of exposure, made sure a lot of people cared about him who would have given a shit otherwise. Because yeah, sure, fine, he was an ROH darling and he had all this momentum. But in reality, if it wasn't for a dude like Mark Henry, most he would have gone was he would have gone to TNA. And he would have been an awesome TNA wrestler, and people would have probably popped for it there. But instead, he got to go to the big time and become a really big star, become a really big star, a huge star, and someone who will be a main eventer, and someone who Vince probably would have made concessions for, if it came down to it. But he chose to go there, go play in the mud, destroy his body, so that he could play grab ass, and just make bad decisions, and every once in a while take a pot shot at a place that made him very rich and gave him a beautiful family. Bro, whatever helps you fucking sleep at night. But like I left the company. I left the company in my real life, in my professional life, that gave me a lot of skills. By the time I left the company, it was run like dog shit. Everybody there was really incompetent. But I don't crap on that company because when it was there, it gave me a lot of knowledge, provided with a lot of tremendous opportunities, introduced me to a lot of really fantastic people who are still in my life today, and provided the foundation that allowed me to have a family. I can appreciate things. And it's the lack of appreciation that I think really burns people's asses. Because you have a lot of people who go out there and they struggle. You got a lot of people who are phenomenally talented. I know so many guys who the only sin they committed in wrestling was that they started wrestling in 2002 through 2008 when there were no cell phones, there was no other company to go to, and the guidance wasn't there. But they're phenomenally talented people who just couldn't get a chance because they were under 6 feet tall. Guys who you should say that they blow your fucking mind. This is how absolutely incredibly talented they were. And they aren't bitter. They aren't angry. They just fucking packed up and moved on. They go, man, yeah, I wonder if I was a little younger, I'd probably give it a shot. If. But it is what it is. The guys who make it to the NFL are not always the best of the best. right? The guys who make it to the NBA are not always the best of the best. They just got the best opportunity, but they made the most of it. But they're also fucking appreciative. And again, what is really irritating is you see these guys, they go to and we got to be honest, right? We were talking about the G1 a couple weeks ago, right? And the fact of the matter is, if W decides to do work with New Japan, which I do think is inevitable, at the end of the day, or if you want to get people to care about the G1, how awesome would it be to see a fucking Sheamus or an Austin Theory or someone? Why? Because a WWE mid Carter, especially an upper mid Carter, is more famous globally than anybody who's currently in New Japan, than anybody who's currently in AEW, than anybody who's currently in TNA. The You are a global entity when you are a WWE performer. And and if you're a guy who leaves and doesn't do anything, you're probably still more of a viable performer than the people who are on TV currently on AEW. So you got to leave this worldwide company that turned you to a global force, and you're going on here and you're fucking pissing and moaning every chance you get because you were paid handsomely and we're on national TV every week in front of millions of fucking people, when there are dudes who are more talented or just as talented who couldn't even get a 2 second look. Fuck off.
Well, like always, we end the show on a positive note. That's right. Last night, Indi Hartwell debuted officially on TV as a member of TNA, and we saw her at the pay per view Rebellion. She was in the crowd. She came out, kind of promo. Didn't say a lot in terms of what she's going to be doing going forward, but she said she is going to be the face of TNA. And how big is this for TNA to get somebody who, yeah, they are a WB, X talent, but they're still young. It's not like they're in their 40s and they're, on the back line. It's still somebody who's 20 years old, has a lot left in their career, somebody who chose TNA over AEW, and somebody who you could make the argument of, hey, she's one of those people who got lost in the shuffle because of just numbers in WWE.
Yeah. Well, I was upset when they released her. I thought that they wasted her time. They pulled her up. She finally got her doing NXT. She won the title. Then they pull her up. Then they're not doing anything with her. Then they jam her with the fucking Garganos, and you know how I feel about the Garganos. I think that's the vanilla midget fucking prison zone. Um, she's not really getting any matches, and then you finally give her a match, and then you release her the next week, and just before you go to her home country. I thought it was shitty. I thought it was a wasted opportunity with her. I'm glad she went to TNA. She's still really young. She got a lot to give. She's got a lot to learn. But in TNA, she also it's an even bigger upside because the girls who are there who get to work with her, get even further exposure to the WWE machine and to the WWE mentality. You're learning how to be a global star. She gets to work on her craft. She gets to hone her craft. She gets to be in front of a different audience. She gets to stay relevant in the eyes of American fans. So it's a big deal, and I also think it speaks volumes that she went to TNA and not to AEW. She turned down the money. She turned down the money, for the quality of experience. And I think you're going to start to see this happen more often. Unless you're a guy like a Josh Alexander, right, who's got, who's just, neck issues, in the 40s, in his 40s, and had accomplished his dream of being TNA champion, right? But he knows, like, I don't got that much to give. I'm gonna take the biggest paycheck I can get, and I'm gonna make it work, right? But if you're a younger kid, unless that check is so big it's impossible to turn down, like an Okada situation, the I would tell you right now, if you get the opportunity to choose, you need to choose the place that's going to give you quality experience, that's going to help you learn a work ethic, that's going to teach you about the business, that's going to increase and expand your equity. That is TNA more so than AEW. So again, I think it speaks volumes. I'm glad she's there. I was a big indie fan, I look forward to see what she's going to do.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I know we're almost out of time, so we got to let him go, but we always love having him on because he brings the heat more than even at a barbecue. I give you, it's the War Dog promote. It's the promoter extraordinaire, wrestler, you know, podcaster, and a man who is not afraid to pull punches and take dives. Well, dives, that's debatable. I give you Kevin Apollo. So, Kevin, once again, where can fans check you out at? Where is your podcast itself? Besides this, where is the Twitter, Instagram, and what's going on with their wrestling promotion?
I guess you check me out on Toonie Town Wrestling, right? Toonie Town Wrestling and Toonie Talk TV on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Marv the Movie Monster. I guess feature pretty often on WWE Pro. Usually Tuesday mornings and Wednesday evening. Other than that, you can get me on Twitter at Wardog Apollo. Same thing on Instagram, but I think it's a Wardog underscore Apollo. And then that we've got some American Coliseum wrestling shows coming up. All American Banger, hold on, look at the calendar. July 12th. July 12th at the Crystal Run Galleria in Middletown, New York. Old school ECW stomping grounds. And then I'm gonna have when I talk to you next, finalizing some logo stuff. So we're gonna start our summer breakout shows in the Havastra, in the Havastra Youth Center. We're gonna be doing it all summer. Pretty much be running all the way through until Christmas time. So I'll have those dates for you probably the next time I'm on. But lots of fun stuff happening. Lots of fun stuff happening. And I guess I'm kicking around. I'm kicking around start my own little channel. I just don't know quite what I want to do with it yet. I want to make sure that it's complimentary, to folks like Marv and Pro who have really done a lot, and giving me a lot of exposure in the space. So, but like I said, whenever I have a fun announcement, you're always going to be one of the first people I share with me because I get to enjoy having these talks and it's fun. We don't always agree, but but the respect is there and it's fun. It's fun to get to hammer this stuff out, man. I appreciate the venue.
Also, I'm afraid, but one day you show up my house and turn my car over with me in it. But that's a different story for a different day. Kevin and Paul, ladies and gentlemen, always on a pleasure to have you on the show. We come back, a lot more going on here. Only on its last call. Last call at the alcohol, only on the last call YouTube channel.